It's time for Takes on Takes, the weekly episode where we give our take on your take today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins, and we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins.
Joe, happy Valentine's Day and Super Bowl parade day to you, I suppose, here. It's everybody was out at 7 a.m. in Philadelphia.
You going?
No, we're not going.
If the Dolphins win the Super Bowl, will you go to that parade?
Do you have to ask that question? If your team won the Super Bowl, would you travel to the Super Bowl parade?
I think so.
I think I would too. Yeah. Now, I wouldn't do the Florida Panthers one that they did. I don't know if you saw that. They had good representation on the beach, but it was like raining. They were out on the bus.
Great. Yeah.
I think the row was like 3 deep because it was just like they had the big backdrop, which was crazy on the actual beach on the Atlantic side. But the drone footage of driving through, it's not like Cleveland when the Cavs won or anything like that. So yeah. I think that there's only one championship parade I would make accommodations for, and it would probably be that one.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I certainly not going to some other team's parade. Are you kidding me?
Is Charlotte?
No.
If the Bobcats, the artist formerly known as the Bobcats.
Hey, maybe 15 years ago I would have, but my whole plan for the Hornets is over. I needed the Lakers to be bad in 2030 so that we can get the number one overall pick. Plus, LeBron James type figure being available at number one. That was my big plan to get back to basketball, but looks like that trade fell through. It's not going to happen.
The Charlotte Knights. If they won the championship.
Is there even a championship for whatever the AAA is? I don't think so.
Good question.
I don't think there is.
I would assume there's something, but
I don't know. I don't know how that goes. Okay, shall we? Takes on takes. We got a bunch of different James Cook takes. So this is the one that I went with. Brian says most of James Cook's production can be replaced. Josh Allen and the offensive line present the most challenges for defense against the run. Of course, this on the heels of James Cook making it very known that he would like a contract that pays him $15 million a season.
Right. How many starts have Bills starting offensive linemen missed in the last 2 seasons combined?
One
start in the last 2 seasons combined?
Yep. Spencer Brown against the Chiefs this year.
Yeah. That versus anything else that you could give me for run scheme with offensive line coach stability, a lot of young players mixed with a couple of staple players. They had the transition this year at center when they moved on from Mitch Morse.
Yeah.
But man, that group has just been so stable. And then the threat that the quarterback is, I think this is a totally fair take. And I think it's the biggest argument against giving James Cook a contract that pays him as a top 3 paid running back in the NFL.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about James Cook, and I encourage you to check out Locked On Bills for the full analysis. But for me, he wants $15 million a year. That would make him the number 2 highest paid running back in the NFL. He's a 45% of the snaps player because he doesn't pass block. That means he's not on the field in 2 minutes. He's not on the field at end of half. He's also not the closer. And so I think it's inappropriate to pay him a contract that pays him like one of those top backs that they all play 75, 80% of snaps routinely for their team. And so I don't think it's a fair request for James Cook. And I do think that the replaceability is nothing that concerns me. Kyle Crabbs. Quick time out here.
Who would you rather pay $13 million a year for? James Cook or Gabe Davis?
James Cook.
You didn't think about it.
Yeah, there's no brother. I think I got a useful player versus not a useful player. Yeah, we'll take the big play home runs out of James Cook as opposed to the slug that is Gabe Davis. Dolphin, we got to move on. Dolphins Craze says people are too quick to forget Tom Brady lost in the Super Bowl as a 14-point favorite to an Eli Manning team. This Super Bowl didn't tarnish Mahomes' reputation as bad as people make it out to be. There's a pretty good chance he's going to end up being the GOAT.
Oh, what? You mean people are being miserable prisoners of the moment to live in the latest thing that's ever happened is the only variable of anything that's ever to be talked about ever again?
Right.
No way. I have a hard time believing that's how people are acting about anything.
I can't even believe this is a conversation.
Oh, no. Pat won his 5th conference championship before the age of 30, still has 3 Super Bowl rings and lost the game because the defense gave up 40 points and the offensive line had injuries and couldn't block anybody at all against the best defensive line in football.
Yeah, there's nothing about that game that changes a single thing about Patrick Mahomes. The story of that game should be Philly, their roster construction, their pass rush, how they've been able to put together that offense, Jalen Hurts in a big game. That's the story. Patrick Mahomes is on the other side of it. He's the best quarterback of this era of football. He's certainly in the Mount Rushmore conversation. And yeah, when it's all said and done, who knows how many rings he has, but I'm sure he hasn't won his last Super Bowl. Cap, it's a longer, I condensed it to Cap. Cap says positional value is overrated and drafting elite players over time is a better strategy.
Yes.
The good players are the premium, right?
Correct. Because you can construct a roster in any which way. There's so many different variations of financial ramifications and blowback. You have teams that just don't pay pass rushers as a premium position. They love to draft them, right? Baltimore is like that. They typically don't pay edge rushers top money, and they've drafted and developed at that position because they want to be cheap, and then they invest elsewhere. And they're super invested in tight end. They're super invested at safety. They drafted a center in the first round. You've got the Detroit model of we don't care about positional value, be damned. We're just going to pick who we think are the hard-nosed culture fits for our football team that just happen to be great football players, and they've had success.
Yeah, the good players are the premium. I'm in on that for sure. This one came through, and I'm like, get out of here with this. And then I did a little research, so this should be fun. This one's from August. August says at least one of the head coaches hired since the end of 2024 regular season will be fired during the 2025 regular season. And so I thought to myself, this is nuts. But Kyle, this has happened the last 4 years. Antonio Pierce, Frank Reich, Nathaniel Hackett, Urban Meyer is all happened. So does the trend break, or do we have a one-and-done coach that's fired in season?
Okay, so the 7 coaches that got hired in this cycle.
Yep.
The 2 previous head coaching experience coaches were Mike Vrabel and Pete Carroll.
Yep.
Don't think either one of those is going to happen.
Wouldn't think so.
Okay. You have Kellen Moore in New Orleans, or Ellen Moore, as Gail Benson called him during his introductory press conference.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, Ellen Moore.
That's tough.
We think we have a great leader, which we found in Ellen Moore.
Man.
A tough intro, right?
I don't think nothing will top Dan Snyder saying, first of all, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, when he introduced Ron Rivera as the head coach on January 3rd.
Yeah.
So that's
a couple months off.
Yeah, it's a couple months, a few holidays off.
So I don't have high expectations for New Orleans this year. I would be surprised if it's a in-season firing by December, theoretically. Schottenheimer, could they be disastrously bad? If they end up being disastrously bad, could they? That's the hire that feels like it was the most.
They kind of stick with it, though,
move. Yeah, but if it's disastrously bad, I could see that maybe being the one based off where Schottenheimer was before he got the head coaching job as like a hire from within. We know who he is. If it just does not work, maybe. I'd be surprised, but maybe. I will pass on it.
Yeah, me too. I have a hard time like predicting right now that it will happen, but I think it's fair to say that it could. It could, and it's not as crazy of a take as I originally thought it was when I read it. All right, we're going to talk about this Trevor Lawrence thing. Is the Steelers really going to trade for him? We'll consider that here on the other side of it, folks. Be sure to stick with us. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game more exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, so you saw the same thing I did, which Jacksonville sources apparently with other insiders are very quick to shut down. What's the take? Because I'm fascinated to see how this made the cut.
JD says Trevor Lawrence doesn't make the Steelers a Super Bowl contender. For the sake of the conversation, let's assume what's being reported is correct. They would be better off keeping their 1 and 2, adding young depth at positions of need, and looking elsewhere for a quarterback. So let's live in a world where the Steelers would trade for Trevor Lawrence, which we don't think is going to happen.
Correct.
Is that their best path to get quarterback figured out? Or is it apply some veteran?
Is Matthew Stafford actually available? Because you should trade for Matthew Stafford is what you should do.
Boy, that'd be interesting. That shouldn't cost you that much, right? Given his age.
Right. Even if it was 21 for a 2-year window.
If Stafford were available, the Rams to me are a Super Bowl contender next year with Matthew Stafford. Why would they not see that through?
I guess they're moving on from Cooper Kupp, and if there's hard feelings there, I know Kelly Stafford is not afraid of making her opinion known. Is that rubbing anybody the wrong way? Do they want to have the assets in order to align with the 2026 quarterback market, which is supposed to have it's supposed to be the bee's knees, right? With all these guys that Aller went back to school, Arch Manning's going to be eligible, Nussmeier went back to school. You've got Nico over at Tennessee. You've got a ton of talented guys that could potentially be in the next quarterback class. Do you want to have surplus assets to be able to make a move and go get one of those guys and have a succession plan? And then do you sign Aaron Rodgers and bring him back to the West Coast and play in place of Stafford? Like that was the Cowherd Galaxy brain thing that was on yesterday, I think it was, or at least earlier this week. So I would say if you're Pittsburgh and you're going to move assets, the phone call I would make would be to the Rams to figure out, because he's not happy with his contract, and I think he's only due for $31 million in cash this year, so there has to be a dramatic shift in that regard regardless. That would be my first call if I was Pittsburgh.
Well, keep Stafford in the NFC, please. That should tell you exactly how much I don't want to see that happen. Bill said this year's NFL draft running back class will have the most drafted prospects since 2017. When 30 running backs were drafted. Kyle, while you think about that, I'll tell you how many running backs were drafted. This year, 2024, 20. 2023, there was 18. 2022, there was 24. 2021, there was 20. 2020, there was 16. 2019 was 25. 2018 was 21. 30 in 2017? Do we top 30?
All
We hadn't really come that close since.
Jenkins, Johnson, Seattle, Sanson, Gordon, Harvey, Neal, Martinez, ETN, Brashad Smith, DJ Giddens, LeQuint, Joquan Marks, Kyle Mullings, Bashal Tootin, Jordan James, Taj Brooks. No.
You don't think we get there?
It's a good class, but that's just a monstrous number of running backs.
All right. Kyle is out. I have no idea. So
no, I'm out.
Luke says, while ultimately worth it on account of the Lombardi Trophy they won this year, the massive $390 million that the Philadelphia Eagles have in void years of contracts will keep from any Patriots, Chiefs type dynasty.
Probably, because that's a very rarefied air to enter into, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you think about it, they've won 2 Super Bowls in the last decade.
They have.
They're going to have another couple cracks at it. What they've got? 3 more years before you'll have reached the decade anniversary of their first Super Bowl win.
Mm-hmm. 2017, right?
Yeah.
So
16, 17, or 25, 26, 27. They're 3 more. If they win 3 Super Bowls in a decade, does that kind of puts you in a certain club, right?
It does. I think what would be unique about that is it wouldn't be
the same nucleus.
It would be really, really different,
mm-hmm.
Like even different head coaches.
Right. But I think you can look at, if you win 3 Super Bowls in a decade, you kind of have to be to some degree in a conversation about dynasty, not to the degree and severity in which Kansas City is right now or New England was, right?
I might have the squash on this. I want to go to a team that did that's never discussed as a dynasty. Okay. And I want to go to the Washington. They won the Super Bowl in 92, 88, and 83. Does anybody think of that as a dynasty? I never hear anybody say that.
I'm Googling.
All right.
With dynasty and see what comes up.
It's the Washington 92.
The Washington dynasty was 82 to 91 when the team won 3 Super Bowls. It's the top hit is from Reddit. The Hogs era Washington team is the forgotten dynasty.
I didn't forget.
Because they won 3 Super Bowls and had another appearance in a 10-year span.
They lost one? Oh, yeah, they do. They lost in 84 to the Raiders. People forget that. Super Bowl MVP Marcus Allen.
It was 83 to the Raiders. 83 season.
83 season, 84 suit. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Man, this is a thing. This is definitely a thing.
So I kind of think if they win one more in the next 3 years, I would consider them to be a dynasty, just not like an all-time great dynasty.
The Broncos didn't win 3 Super Bowls in a decade, but they won in 98 and 99,
mm-hmm.
and they lost in 87 and 88. Are they low-key a dynasty?
I think you have to win 3 championships.
You have to get 3.
That would be my personal, arbitrary, not scientific definition of a dynasty.
Okay, so in the history of football, we have the Steelers dynasty in the 70s
mm-hmm.
/ 80s.
Mm-hmm.
We have the 49ers, right? Yeah, the 49ers for sure. 85 to 95, 1,000,000% true.
Cowboys.
We have the Cowboys 90s. Washington, which we've now established as a dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
Patriots and Chiefs. That's it. In the history of the league.
Now, there's other teams that were all-time great stretches in that stretch, right? The Raiders in the late 70s were into the early 80s were an outstanding stretch of football. The early 70s Dolphins appeared in 3 straight Super Bowls, won 2 of them. The second 2 of the last 2 of the 3 appearances. You had the Giants in the late 80s.
Well, it's close, but if 3's the qualifier, then
yeah.
I
think that's a fair threshold. I don't know if it's totally all encompassing, but
so the point being is the Eagles are knocking on the door.
Yeah, I would consider them to, yeah.
Wow.
Especially if they win more than one with the same nucleus of players.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But the
Okay.
same guy is going to have constructed all their championships.
Michael says teams like the Jets, Broncos, or anyone that has a dead cap charge on one player that they will cut should not divide it in 2-year stints. They should just take the whole cap hit year one, especially with new regimes and time to build their way.
Was he sitting on our pre-show conversation?
Right. That's why I want
yesterday.
Right. We've kind of talked about this a few different times between us, but we agree. This is a on-brand take for us.
I think there are instances in which it is appropriate to do June 1st cuts, but especially if your team in any level of transition. Now, can you be cap compliant with a Russell Wilson $80-something million cap hit?
That's where it gets tough. Yeah.
You know, like when it's that big, I mean, you're talking almost a third of the cap. You might not be able to be compliant with your other rosters, in which case you say, okay, we'll do everybody else restructure and make it work. And we have to split it because we want to be cap compliant so we can play the football games.
And that's really difficult because you have to carry that cap charge right through the most meaningful opportunities to improve your roster, all the big waves of free agency.
Yeah.
So that just gets difficult. All right, we got more to get to. We'll talk Titans at number 1 and little commentary about Texas Roadhouse and their roles. That's coming up here next, folks. Be sure to stick with us. Football season may be over, but basketball is in full swing, and there's no better way to stay in the game than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. This week, I'm looking at Jason Tatum for more than 29 points. The best part, Prize Picks is quick and easy. You can set your lineup in less than 60 seconds, and their fast and secure withdrawals mean I get my winnings in as little as 15 minutes. Plus, I love their weekly promos like Taco Tuesday, where you get discounted player projections for even better value. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, Tate says the Titans' best outcome from this draft is to trade back twice. Giants pick 3 and 34, then Jets/Raiders 1st and 2nd. Sign a guy like Zach Wilson and let them compete with Will Levis on a talented young roster thanks to picks. Trade up to draft a quarterback next year if needed.
Anytime you can trade down twice, I think that's a winning. You know, you're talking, you went down 6 spots and got a future 1 and 2 extra top 40 picks in a draft class where that's the sweet spot. Where I don't think you have home run. You sign Sam Darnold, right? Skip the whole development portion of it. But draft capital is king where I'm from. So, yeah, you tell me you're going to collect a bunch of extra 1st and 2nd round picks. That's the way you do it because of the flexibility that then affords you to do anything with those picks, not just drafting players.
Yeah. And I think, of course, any conversation in trading back is what you're trading away from. And I don't really get too concerned about that for Tennessee in this situation. So I think that'd be great for them for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan says day 1 of the draft is an overall more enjoyable viewing experience than the Super Bowl, unless your team is playing in it, and mine never is. The sheer amount of pandemonium is unparalleled. So what's a better fan experience? The NFL draft, round 1, or watching the Super Bowl? Of course, the caveat being is that your favorite team is not playing in the Super Bowl.
Right. Well, I think dead last on this list would be attending a Super Bowl because it's just like become such a major corporate event.
I don't think I'll ever attend a Super Bowl. I don't think I will.
Right. Like I would not, I don't even know if I would want to go see my team play in it for the risk of what you're there and they lose. Like,
boy, it's tough. That'd be terrible.
Not be a fun flight home, like
the whole thing.
How
the whole
interested
thing.
I am in that.
He dropped like $15,000 for the whole experience.
The get-in price, this one was like $6,000.
Yeah. Yeah, it's every bit of $15,000 to just get there and watch the game.
Yeah. That's crazy to me. I would say it's more inclusive. Draft is more
The reason I scroll, I remember growing up, right? You just looked at that ESPN ticker. You just looked at it and you're waiting for some roster transactions, right? The reason I'm still like, I have any desire to scroll social media or the Twitter is because I want to see if there's going to be roster moves. You know, you're getting 32 roster moves, meaningful impact roster moves. Nothing's better than that. And everybody gets their minute, their time in the sun. It's so good. It's so good.
And then you can come back on the board at any point. Now,
right.
not if you're a handful of teams that just choose these are the picks we get and we're generally going to stay and pick. But you could be done for the night and then all of a sudden not be done for the night.
Has that happened for you? Have the Dolphins in your memory, have they traded back into the first round?
Back into the first.
I've had that for JP Losman. And I had it for I think I had it for Eric Wood as well.
I was just getting ready to say, well, don't trade back in for quarterbacks, but Baltimore did that with Lamar Jackson. So,
right. Yeah. Right.
Nothing's ever all encompassing with the draft.
Hey, JP Losman, he got a job is he the assistant quarterbacks coach at Washington now with Jed Fish?
Oh, that's fine.
The only reason I bring that up is because I think Bruce Feldman shared this, and he picked JP Losman in a Dolphins uniform as the like the signal for people to see the tweet. And I'm like, thank you for that. Actually, I appreciate not having to look at those Bills drought era uniforms ever again in my life.
That hitting back to back with the Pat White joining the West Virginia coaching staff from this offseason is enough to trigger a lot of PTSD for a lot of fans in South Florida and I guess Buffalo if they had picked the drought era. Is that what they're officially called, or is that what just you?
That's what I call them, the drought era jerseys. Yeah, they're so bad.
Those are the arena ball jerseys,
brother.
Panels and stripes and shoulder gizmos and
different shades of blue. Let's toss a little gray in there. You know, one of the worst jerseys you've ever seen, especially those road jerseys. Okay, Phil says the Browns are the most directionless franchise at the moment. It's hard to not think that's true, right? You have no path at quarterback.
Do I buy that though? Like directionless, they have a strategy in which they're attempting to run their organization. They just struck out on the quarterback.
Yeah, but that's complete. Okay, that's fair. But like the consequence of them striking out on the quarterback in the way that they did has put them in a position where you're just like, well, what are we doing? Do we have a path?
We're trying to get through it. Yeah, we're just trying to get through it.
You have like expensive aging players. You don't want to. You're saying you don't want to trade Myles Garrett.
Okay. Hold on now.
Who's a more directionless team than the Browns?
I would argue the Saints are more directionless than the Browns.
Is there some merit to the Saints being in year one of a new head coach that gives them some
GM?
I know, but at least it's a new coach. And it's not just like promoting somebody that you already had, you know. Like at least they didn't just hire Darren Rizzi, go from the head coach. Let's swap in the defensive coordinator. Okay, it didn't work out. Let's try the special teams coordinator.
I'll say this. Tom Brady buying a minority ownership in the Raiders saves them from being my answer here.
Okay.
How many coaches have we just flushed down the toilet? Like haphazardly flush down the toilet. It's like, you don't know what you want. The Giants are kind of in that boat too. Remember when it was a minor miracle, Daboll made it past year 2 because they had 3 straight coaches that didn't make it past 2 seasons.
Right. What do you think about Aaron Rodgers for the Giants? This is the one I saw this come through the other day and I was like, The
longer we go, I think there are more appropriate destinations for Aaron Rodgers than I think we would have acknowledged.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
100%. Especially at this point. Like, dude's not going in there calling any shots. You're going to go be the quarterback, be the veteran that's going to try to be like let's catch lightning in a bottle. Like, you got to know your role. I think there's teams that should be in it. Like, I think the Giants should think about it. I think the Steelers should think about it. I don't know about the Raiders or Titans. Maybe the Titans.
The Raiders, if they're going to be on the outside looking in for the perceived top 2 quarterbacks, and you tell me you can draft Jackson Dart at 7, or you can try to get Jackson Dart on day 2 and sign Aaron Rodgers.
I like that better.
I'd rather do that too.
Yeah. All right, we got to get this from Vontel. Vontel has taking a moment to step away from the defensive line takes, and he would like to say this. Texas Roadhouse's rolls alone are better than a majority of appetizers from a lot of restaurants.
This is where you get me. The
It's
rolls
too
are
much.
good. The
Right,
rolls
they're
are
good.
good.
They're good.
They're made by the butter. When I think Texas Roadhouse appetizer bread discussion, it's the cinnamon butter that
Yeah.
really moves the needle.
I don't want to speak for you, but I believe there's a chain restaurant bread option that you think is better than Texas Roadhouse.
Oh, there's several.
So
I've done the research on this. So I have tastingtable.com up right now. Hashtag no free pub, but tastingtable.com. I Googled ranking the best free bread selection from restaurants.
okay.
And I'm going to read you the top 5 that they have, and you tell me where we're off here. Okay. Number 5 is Carrabba's Italian Grill with the dipping oil.
All the way out on that.
The Italian sliced Italian bread. I think it's too hard most of the time.
Yeah, I'd never want it. Yeah.
Number 4, which I think is one of the ones that's better than Texas Roadhouse, the Outback Steakhouse loaf.
It ain't bad. It ain't bad.
I think the actual bread there is better than the Texas Roadhouse loaf. But
It's
you put the
close. I
Texas
don't feel strong
Roadhouse
about that.
butter on the Texas Roadhouse roll, which is number 3 on this list.
Okay.
And I think with the butter, it's a better experience. Number 2 is the Red Lobster cheddar biscuits, which for me would be number 1.
I knew that was warm.
With them.
Right.
And number 1 is the Olive Garden breadsticks.
Ooh. Is O'Charlie's a thing? Have you had O'Charlie's?
O'Charlie's, I believe that's on this list.
I love whatever those.
Yeah, number 7.
Okay, yeah, I'm a big O'Charlie's. What's 6?
Romano's Macaroni Grill.
Never.
It's another one of the Italian type breads with the dipping oil.
Man.
Cheesecake Factory's on here with their like oatmeal loaf bread.
Kick rocks.
The rye. Yeah, not for me.
The only thing at Cheesecake Factory I'm getting is cheesecake. You can't give me a spiral notebook full of menu options and think that I think anything's going to be remotely good. Like I'll take a piece of cheesecake.
Bonefish Grill's on here. I think theirs is somewhat underrated.
Bang, bang shrimp, baby. That's what you got to get from Bonefish.
Longhorn Steakhouse.
I don't correlate that one. It doesn't pop for me.
It's more like a wheat loaf of bread.
That's probably not going to move the needle.
And then they have Panera bread at 15.
What even is that's not a sit down restaurant. You order.
It's also just a brick that you dip in their cheddar soup, broccoli soup.
Big pass on that.
Yeah. So
all right. So I'm O'Charlie's. You're Red Lobster. Does Red Lobster still exist? I thought it was gone.
Yeah. Somebody bought it. I believe.
Oh, it lives. The dream lives.
Yeah.
All right. Shrimp Week. Let's do it.
They could have just sold the recipe for the cheddar biscuits and kept their whole debt would have been gone. Right.
I'm happy for them.
That's going to do it for us here today on Locked On NFL Scouting. It's not takes on takes without a food take of some kind. We snuck it in at the buzzer. We hope you guys enjoyed. Come back and see us again on Monday as we continue our march towards the NFL Combine, which is less than 2 weeks away at this point, the start of the Combine. So it'll be here before you know it. We hope you come back and see us on Monday. Kyle Crabbs, Joe Marino, we're out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.